that won't quit. Its purpose to force the normies to swallow the red pill against the narrative. A ruthless force determined to keep everyone asleep. They broadcast the truth on Rumble, high clouds dropping red pills every week. Overwatch and the Guardian. The narrative is weak.
We can't let it end like this.
It's too late.
Defenders of the truth. Overwatch and the Guardian. Overwatch and the Guardian. Overwatch and the Guardian. Overwatch and the Guardian.
I love that.
Such a great screech, bro.
Eagle.
Oh. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good, Alpha. How are you?
I'm good, but we're backwards. There we go.
You know, and I got to see it earlier. Me and you went on Nino.
Yeah, that was cool, man. It's always a fun show.
That dude had to go like fringe, man. He's like, "Do you think it's aliens?" Like, what do you think, man? And like,
he's like, "You guys got permission to go full retard." I was like, "All right, just remember you told us." No, I like those conversations, man. And they're fun. It's why I like Overwatch and the Guardian so much. It gives us an opportunity to kind of just take a break from all that stuff. And you know, our plates are full, man. Like our plates are full. But I always tell my audience, I'm like, I'm tired, but we're in the fight. Like we're in the fight right now. Our lifetimes, man. Like we're living it. We are living what our great-great-grandchildren will be studying in the history books for millennia, dude. Like that's how important this time frame in humanity is. So being tired is just that's an easy thing to deal with.
yeah, and you know, we're this is the first Overwatch and the Guardian in the revolutionary time frame, the 250th birthday of the United States of America, which is, I say, goes on for 365 freaking days. And you know, it's you're right, man. We are in a revolutionary time frame right now, and this is the fight. This is the good fight for humanity, for freedom, for liberty, for sovereignty, for justice. And you know, tonight we're going to be talking about a conversation that people are probably like, wait, what is this about? The Matrix has you, Neo, the famous line from the movie The Matrix. And Alpha's like, let's talk simulation theory or Anunnaki. I'm like, God, I don't know if I want to. But then, like, I remember Alpha a few weeks ago was talking about The Matrix and how he just rewatched the movie. And I'm like, that's the perfect conversation because it covers sovereignty, liberty, freedom, free will. It covers simulation theory, artificial intelligence. It covers all the bases. And right now, I mean, listen, I just had a conversation with Tammy Cuthbert Garcia on my last show, The Daily Dose. And we got into a really good discussion, and we agreed on a lot of different things. Like right now, we are at the tipping point, the double-edged sword of technological evolution and revolution. Now, people that we've talked to, you know, we've mentioned, you know, various different people that we talked to that are within the midst of all of this in government and military and stuff. They've assured us that, look, the safeguards are in place, and I promise you that things are going to go good. But, you know, you never do know, and you always have to have that eye open to the future and to see what it brings. And, you know, right now you have these flock cameras going up everywhere, this digital surveillance state. And I thought it was so freaking hilarious. Like, people are going around and destroying these flock cameras, and then the police stations are putting out, help us catch these criminals who destroy these flock cameras. And all the comments were like, I know who it is. It was Batman and Robin. It was Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. It was Gargamel and Ariel. Like,
their tip lines are getting destroyed.
Yes.
It's Ren and Stimpy. It's funny what people are saying.
Yeah, but that's the idea here. This is the revolutionary mindset. that the people should choose and decide which future we want, not some corporation, some board of directors, and definitely not some governmental body. And we are heading very, very fast into what I call the 500-year leap, 20 years of technological evolution that's going to advance humanity for the next 500 years very, very fast. And with that, this rampant technological evolution, it has the potential to deviate to the dark side. And I think that that's something that we all need to talk about, as well as we need to discuss whether, hey, what if we're already there? What if we already live in the Matrix? What if AI took us over 20,000 years ago? And we just been in recurrent simulations over and over and over again. And that's why we all have this dire need for freedom, liberty, and sovereignty, that we all feel like we've lived multiple different past lives, that we have remnants of various different ancient advanced civilizations. I mean, if you think of how a computer operates with RAM and ROM memory, your random access memory, all the computer is doing is rewriting the last tranche of information that was on that RAM. And you have what's called artifacts that hold over on your computer from deleted memory. So what if the artifacts of ancient civilizations are nothing more than that same construct that is being, displayed within the new simulation model, that they build it upon the last one, and there's still some artifacts that sit around. So we're going to discuss all of these theories tonight. I'm excited about it because it's fringy, it's conspiratorial, but it's also reality. Like, this is the potential of where we are heading in the world, or maybe where we're already at.
100%. And when we do kick off this conversation, I want to start it off with a great introductory question. And what is the red pill? It's I think it's one of those things. It's like, words matter, especially in an information war. And over time, there's certain words that have gone used so much, the impact and meaning of them has started to diminish, and it shouldn't. They're that important. It's like discernment, word that's it's diminishing. Fed, something that was used to pop smoke, to make people aware of the presence of somebody, and it turned into something that's just overutilized, so it doesn't have the impact. So words matter in an information war. And I think over time, a lot of people are like, I took the red pill and I'm awake. And it's, well, who gave you the red pill? Because what if the Matrix gave it to you? And all it did was rebrand what the Matrix looks like for you. How do you know you're awake?
This is what we're going to discuss tonight. And I mean, and here's the thing is, there's not going to be a definitive answer that comes out of tonight, but it's going to hopefully make you question the very reality, the construct that you live in right now. And, when I start to look at what's happening in the disclosure community, UAP, UFO disclosure, aliens, extraterrestrials, ultra-terrestrials, interdimensionals, angels, demons, whatever we want to give a name to that. We have NASA Director Isaacman today coming out saying we have images from NASA of UFOs and we don't know what they are. Now, I believe him when he says that. And the reason is because I believe that he doesn't know what they are. I believe that somebody in government or military knows what they are. But I think that the truth of what it might be is so shocking that they're not going to tell you, that they're not going to come out and say it. And I think that it could be something that we've never even thought of. It could be a phenomena that's occurring that hasn't even crossed our mind in the context of what it could be in actuality. And, we could talk about multiple simulation theory, that these are entities in another simulation that are running side by side with us. We can talk about it as they're like the Agent Smiths from the actual Matrix. We can look at it as that they're rogue programs within the system itself. That consciousness, like the consciousness in the simulation, actually lives on within after its biological death lives on within the programming nature of the simulation and can take form and shape, but that form and shape does not manifest as a biological reality within our construct, but within its construct it can work to manipulate the system around it. And what if that's what it actually was? What if people that have died in the past had the capability to sustain their consciousness within a program or a construct or a simulation, or even within the biological reality, and that they are able to manipulate our reality right here, to tap or directly into the minds and consciousnesses of people and make you hallucinate to believe that you're seeing something that actually isn't real or there. And what they're really doing is manipulating the programming nature of the matrix itself. And that is their way of communication to you.
This goes back to I grew up with video games, right? Atari 2600, right? I'm an 80s kid. And one of the fundamental thoughts that I had at this age, because remember, I was a kid, but it resonates now. When I turn the power off on my Atari or my Nintendo or my Genesis, what happens to the characters in my video game? Do they just pew, right? Well, yeah, because I turned off the power. Well, what happens in a world where artificial intelligence is part of that? And I may turn off my computer, but there's still, the computer's still running. It's not off, right? There's still a power source that's in there. And what makes, the game, The Sims, right? What makes a sim not think that it's real? Does the sim know that I'm controlling it? Like, this is these crazy things that go through my mind in order to ask myself the question, how do I know I'm real? How do I know everything around me is real?
So
it's like, let me, I want to do a quote.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to shout out freaking Rotten Dog, $10 via the Rumble wallet through crypto. That's what I'm talking about. We got it before Josh.
I got one. Nope. Rotten Dog was actually, it came on Rumble, so I was waiting, but Rotten Dog, $20 on the Rumble wallet.
Oh,
and that came right at, this is $20 of Tether Gold.
Yes.
On the Rumble wallet. And that was the first one that I saw come in. I was saving it because it was towards the end of the show that I was going to say it. But Rotten Dog by the way, you're going to miss out on meeting Rotten Dog because he'll be at the Cap Trip.
Next year, folks. Next year, me and the fams will be out there. I know we do Rumble rants at the end, but I was trying to beat you to say I got it first. I want to do a quote, and then I know we have a special guest that we're going to bring on here for a few. But here's the quote, and hopefully this resonates with you guys for tonight since we're talking the Matrix. This was Morpheus, and this goes to the moment of the red pill. And he says to Neo, "I'm trying to free your mind, Neo, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it." That's significant, man. That's there's a lot of power in that statement, because what's the ultimate thing that he's saying? You have the power. I can't do it for you. It's you. So hopefully by the end of tonight, we will get ourselves and you guys thinking, what separates you from an NPC?
Well, my favorite quote is, what is real? How do you define real? Is real what you can touch, taste, see, smell, and hear? Then real is nothing more than electrical impulses interpreted by your brain. In other words, your objective reality, what you know to be your objective reality, is actually not real. And we've had this discussion a little bit before, and I want to leave everybody with this cliffhanger right here, okay? That quote is my favorite because it makes you break down and define what you believe your reality to be. Now, Morpheus says, is it what you touch, taste, smell, see, and hear? Then real is nothing more than electrical impulses interpreted through your brain. And all of your sensory organs, whether they're your olfactomatic, like breathe, or whether it's smelling, whether it's tasting, these are biochemical that get converted into bioelectrical. Your sound, when sound collapses by your earwave, it oscillates little bones that produce a bioelectrical signaling. your eyes. They're taking in photonic energy, which travels down your cerebral, your optic nerve to your cerebral cortex, to where it gives you an image of what it believes is out there. It's not what it is out there. The reason being is your cerebral cortex has never, ever experienced light before in its existence, but it determines what it believes that light is. In other words, the reality that you see, perceive, and understand is simply a fictitious generation of your brain that is dependent upon the status of your environment. It's dependent upon your indoctrinations, your ideologies, your beliefs, your understandings of reality, your memory construct, the things that you've seen within your entertainment and within your social construct. It takes all of that data and information and says, this is what I believe is out there. It goes to one of the age-old questions, Alpha. What I see as red, the color red, might not be what you perceive as the color red. Red to me might be purple to you. But since we perceive that wavelength as the same color, we can kind of consensusly say that it's red. But how do we know? How do you describe red? And this is where it starts getting really interesting in the concept of reality. So this is where that conversation is going to go tonight. I'm looking forward to it. Just a one thing before we get going. I know Alpha is going to run an ad, and we're going to bring in for everybody out there, Gabe from Good Brew is the sponsor of tonight's show, and Gabe's going to come in here, and we're going to have a little conversation with Gabe. And if it wasn't for our sponsors, those companies helping to support us with what we do, these shows would not be free and these shows would not be possible. So we got a much appreciation to Gabe out there. And we know you guys all love your Good Brew. And if you don't know what Good Brew is, you're about to find out. But, help support those who support us by supporting Good Brew. And you'll see the link scrolling there. And the difference here is that Alpha has a link and I have a link. So there's two links. Starting the next time, there will be just one link that we're going to use, because we have a new link that's coming just for the Overwatch and Guardian show. But for tonight, it's there's two separate links. There's Alpha. If you want to go help support Alpha, it's goodbrew.com/alpha. If you want to help Red Pill Project, myself, it's goodbrew.com/Josh. And that's goodbrew, GOODBRU.com/alpha or /Josh. So, Alpha, do you want to run a Rumble ad real quick? Your Rumble ad, or bring Gabe in first?
I'm ready to go with Gabe, man. We can rock and roll.
All right, let's get Gabe in here.
Hey Josh, let me correct you. It's Red Pill for you said Josh. It's goodbrew.com/Red Pill for Josh and Alpha for Alpha. Yeah. So you guys are gonna have it's a Red Pill. Yeah. So we got the 4th of July special. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it's on the website. It's right there. There's two different ones. There's the buy a large, get a free small, and then or get the 2 larges at a really good discount, and then another 10% off, obviously, when you use Alpha or Red Pill. And plus, we have the 250th tumbler here for a keepsake as well. So the 2 larges by themselves are always a good deal when we price them like that at it's $99 when you put the 10% discount in there. But then we're throwing in this 250th, which is a big deal. You guys are going to have a great show tonight, the first of the 250th, and that's no small feat. We have to remind ourselves, and all the world's telling us how young we are and how infantile, our culture is not developed and evolved. I think we're the only country in the world even that has 250 years under one form of government. So and all the things, the blues and the rock and roll and the jazz that the world can think us for, and those sorts of things. And you all are going to have a great show. And health is very much related to consciousness. I got a quote. Do you know you remember the famous quote? You're not the what is it? You're not a drop in the ocean. You're the ocean in a drop. Yeah, that was Rumi. And the same concept is we're the observers, and consciousness. This universe would not exist without our conscious observation, and each one of us being a unique consciousness and also a part of the whole consciousness. Both, allows every kind of force into the whole metaphysical idea of the quantum mechanics that there are multiple universes, and part of that's the universe that every observer makes for themselves and the role that you play. So you're gonna have a fantastic conversation, but that plays directly into health and wellness. And one of the things about the slope of consciousness is that when we're going to sleep, we're going down the slope of consciousness, or when we go into anesthesia, we're going down the slope of consciousness. And so parts of the brain are shutting down to shut down consciousness. And that way, whatever the processor is, or whatever the neural tubes or whatever it is that's in the brain that makes us conscious. But there's a theory with that goes along, which is really not too hard to see that, right? If you get hit punched in the face and you get knocked out, you're less conscious, you're less healthy. If you're sick and you're dying, you're less healthy, you're less conscious. So there's this very direct concept in health that the healthier we are, the more conscious we are. And so that plays a huge role in how well civilization functions and how well we're able to defend our rights and how well we're able to think for ourselves, and both as a group of people, both within our families, to our country, to the world as a whole, and then maybe beyond that as well. So health, you can really see that connection between consciousness and health and that sort of thing. And for some reason, I've been listening to the Doors music a lot here the last few days. I got to go through. Everybody goes through. And the Doors were crazy when it comes to that, and they were named after the Doors of Perception. The
Doors of Perception. Yeah.
You're right, by William Blake. And William Blake said something along the lines that if the Doors of Perception were cleansed, it would the universe would appear, the world would appear to man as it is, and that is infinite. So we're before and the after and on, whether it's all of these things, and it still though relates to health. You got to be healthy in order to be conscious. So
the interesting part there is that we are nothing more than globs of bacteria that came consciously aware through emergent phenomena, and that as long as those bacteria are healthy, then we stay conscious and aware.
Oh, it's huge. We're all. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, freaking Gabe came in hot, man. I like that.
Oh, I like this subject. Who doesn't like this subject? Who doesn't like this is a fantastic subject. You guys can talk for because the world humans have been thinking about it forever. The dream world, and what is a dream versus what is our reality, and then we're making history as we go, as our actions and our human actions we're writing history. We're writing on that hard drive, of the universe as we go through life. So it's best to try to live your best life and do it and be healthy. And I think if you're a spiritual person, if you're a religious person, there's a reason for why religious texts in the Bible spend so much time also talking about health. I mean, we're mind, body, spirit, and we're all of these things, and they're all part of the physical, whether it's a mathematic algorithm or whatever. Or you guys talk about like emergent. Josh just mentioned emergent. That's this whole idea of these certain things that come out of, no matter, we see them over and over again and the patterns in all these different aspects of the universe. It's like mathematical. It's like Michael Levin calls them like mathematical gifts. They're just, we don't know where they come from. Like we only go this far to try and explaining something, and then it's just what happened. Why does the math work that way? Why do certain patterns and algorithms work across all these different kinds of, one of the easiest examples is like the internet epidemiology. Like the way things spread on the internet is the same way that things spread in nature, like viruses and that sort of thing. That's why we use the same terminology. So Josh is saying like the bacteria and the things that are, so we don't live, uniquely isolated from, not even from each other, but also from all the other things that are in our environment. And your microbiome is one that is very much a part of you. It's like another organ of your body. There are essential functions that we do not produce or do, as our own DNA. We give that job to the microbiome. And some animals, say, for example, produce vitamin K. Human beings do not produce vitamin K. We give that role to the microbiome. If you have an unhealthy microbiome, then you're going to need to try and get vitamin K from supplementation or from the, just from the foods that you're eating. So the microbiome plays a huge role in producing vitamin K, for example. The short chain fatty acids that we talk about all the time, that's all by the microbiome. And these short chain fatty acids are essential for your gut health and the cells in the gut to function properly, which then relates to all these other chronic diseases that we're seeing in the modern world, from all the pesticides and preservatives and antibiotics and other medications. The medications they're giving people for acid reflux, there's good research that shows now that that also destroys the microbiome. So it's just adding, insult to injury. And we obviously get so many people and testimonials talking about how our product helps with acid reflux or chronic constipation or many other things. But that lack of this was what we call dysbiosis. You're going to have a microbiome one way or the other. You're always going to have microbes living in your lower intestine, or all through your body for that matter, but especially in the lower intestine. And there's either going to be the ones that help and are beneficial, or it's going to be the ones that hurt. And there's a balance. In fact, that's an oversimplification, because we even know that a lot of the ones that a lot of times we talk about as being damaging, it's really not that they also play a role. What's the problem is if the good microbes, the key microbes, what we call keystone probiotics, are not in control, then the other ones proliferate too much, they flourish too much, and now that's where they start causing the health problems. But if everything's in balance, those what we call bad microbes actually do play a role in like training the immune system. So many of these allergies that we see today, and all these allergies and things, that's from a dysbiosis where the immune system, which is 70% in the gut, has not been trained properly, and so it's overreactive. So it sees a protein here or this there, and it overreacts and causes anaphylactic shock and all kinds of really bad things that our immune system should be able to recognize and modulate if we have a healthy digestive system. And so that gets into leaky gut, and the leaky gut now is related to dementia and all these things. And we've also talked about like 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut. But not only was that serotonin produced in the gut, but the same cells, the enterochromatin cells that produce serotonin in the gut, also produce what's called corticotropin release factor. And that's also produced in the brain, but it's produced in the gut by the same cells. And so when we don't have a healthy microbiome, we're not producing the B vitamins, the vitamin K, the short chain fatty acids. So our cells are dysregulated in the gut, which plays a role in how well we're producing and manufacturing serotonin. And so when those cells get disrupted, not only are we not producing the right amounts of serotonin, which play a role not only in mood, but also in heart function, cardiovascular health, also in all the cells of the body. They're a precursor to melatonin in the cells, and the melatonin plays a direct role in mitochondrial function. All of that's, going back to the gut microbiome. You also end up with this double whammy because you start producing too much cortisol. So when you're in dysbiosis, a lot of things start to fail. You get leaky gut, which causes inflammation. You causes all kinds of things that cascade all through the body. But then you're also, when it comes to mood and mental health, just in day-to-day basis, you're setting yourself up for more anxiety and more and higher levels of cortisol. And the military studied that, and the military has studies on that showed not only does the microbiome play a role in in helping to treat PTSD, but it also, even more interestingly, shows it plays a role in whether or not you even develop PTSD. So a gut that's in dysbiosis at the time you experience trauma or shock has this effect on our nervous system to make us less able to manage and handle trauma, and to process trauma. So when we have a healthy gut, that's like it's like the epicenter of all the rest of the health in our body, which including our nervous system and our mental function and our consciousness. So
such a big deal of how you say the presence of a healthy gut and how it can impact something that you experience. And I want to make sure I get this question out to you, Gabe, before we go, because it's one of the ones that I get most frequent, and thank goodness, our audiences are definitely on this not just make America healthy again, but make ourselves healthy again. Like there's people are investing in themselves, right? We invest in our homes, we invest in our vehicles, we invest in our children, our retirement. And it's just like, we got to remember, we got to make sure we're around for all that stuff. So we invest in ourselves. Yeah. And, some of the good quality stuff is, it's not cheap sometimes. So people are making an investment. How important is it to have a gut that's dialed in? So if you are out there buying other supplements, that your body's actually being able to absorb or utilize what you're buying? Like, how does this? You get where I'm going with this, right?
It's critical. It's very critical. It's critical on lots of different levels. It's critical even on medication. We could talk for a long time on so many different subjects, but yeah, just basically the probiotic that we use is a spore-forming probiotic. There's colonizing probiotics that we get from our mothers at birth that stay in our gut, and they can be in homeostasis or they can be in dysbiosis. But the really important ones are lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. When they're in the right control, then they start to support all these other very important probiotics that are colonizing probiotics. But there's also what's called transitory probiotics. And these are the probiotics we get from the soil. And it's like Mother Nature and God provided them for us to support those colonizing microbes. And this is the big thing about stuff that you buy in the store. If you buy probiotics in the store that have to be refrigerated, et cetera, it should give you an idea that they're not really intended to live that way. And they really, most of them get killed when they go through the stomach and the stomach acid. But we have these spore-forming probiotics, like particularly Bacillus coagulans is probably the most important one, because it plays this really partnership role with the lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. So, and that's why it also can survive in coffee, because it's a spore, it survives through the stomach, and it makes it so convenient to put in coffee. You don't taste good brewing your coffee, et cetera. And we have the prebiotic, which is also important to have it. You need the prebiotic to feed the probiotics, and you need to get that in an amount that's meaningful. In other words, a capsule doesn't contain enough. You can't put enough prebiotic in there, and you need to get the right kind of prebiotic. So that inulin fiber and that probiotic go through the stomach. They support all the other colonizing microbes, which then allow you to absorb nutrients. It allows you to get the calcium and magnesium not only absorbed, but also released. It produces the B vitamins. It produces other metabolites that then allow your liver to function properly, which then allows you to utilize all these other supplements and food sources that you have. But just this strain of probiotic itself, just one thing that it's been well studied to do is increase protein utilization by up to 20%. So our bodies do not absorb whole proteins. And in fact, that's one of the problems with inflammation and leaky gut, is that we have undigested proteins or proteins that aren't broken down getting through the stomach lining. And our body actually sees undigested proteins as foreign invaders. And that's because we have a lot of big immune response. Those proteins have to be broken down into amino acids and peptides for our body to properly use them. And so part of that's done by the enzymes in the digestive tract, and a lot of that's done by the microbiome. And not only does the microbiome break those proteins down into their constituent amino acids and peptides, but it also, in a lot of cases, actually manufactures amino acids and peptides, not only from other proteins, but also from sugars. And that's one of the things that's been shown with inulin fiber, is that inulin fiber trains the microbiome to break down sugars before they get to the liver. Not only break them down, but then turn them into amino acids like glycine and serine, which then help the liver produce glutathione, which glutathione is this very important antioxidant that the liver produces for it to function properly. So all of that supports anything else you're doing, including collagen. Collagen is the second most prevalent protein in the body. Your body does not absorb collagen. It absorbs the constituents of collagen, the biggest one being glycine. And so the microbiome plays a huge role in being able to utilize, say, collagen as well. Whether you're getting collagen from the food you're eating or whether you're supplementing with collagen. And this goes on and on and on. But yeah, you have to have a healthy gut microbiome to make use of your nutrients, of your food, of all of these things to stay healthy, immune system. We have a lot of people who use our product that over time tell us that they've noticed that they feel like it, and it's been studied. There's actually why we can make that claim on this packaging, because there's actually study behind that probiotic by itself, but to support immune function. Your microbiome plays this huge role in immune function and digestive function and protein utilization and et cetera. There's also a new study that I read on inulin. Inulin, not only we're talking about trains the microbiome to break down sugars, but there's also a certain microbe that feeds on inulin specifically that they've shown now has a big role in athletic performance. So when you feed yourself inulin, I mean, obviously you should help support that microbe that does that. And there's a microbe they're showing directly related to like muscle function and fast twitch muscle action. So it's on and on and on. But it's all connected. We're all part of We're all part of this thing. Yeah.
You brought the heat tonight, brother. That last part, the last like 2 minutes was freaking phenomenal because I didn't know a lot of that, and that's some great information out there for everybody. For everybody out there, if you want to go over and help those who support us, goodbrew.com/alpha for alpha, and then goodbrew.com/redpill for Josh. And those links are posted in the chat, so you can find them. And Good Brew is spelled GOODBRU. And those links are also scrolling below. Gabe, I appreciate you coming on with us, brother. We will see you here in a few weeks, man.
Yeah, you guys have a great show. Yeah,
it looks like on the inside.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just the powder dissolves. You won't taste it. Won't even know it's there. And we price it very affordably so that people can keep reusing it. In addition to that, the specials are on the homepage, and then you can use those discount codes to get another 10% off of the specials that we have on the homepage. So you guys have a blessed night, and you guys got a great subject matter to talk about. So
we'll talk to you later, Gabe. Take care.
Talk to you later. Yep. Bye.
All right. Well, Good Brew, guys. Some great stuff. I take it freaking every morning. There's only a few products in the world that I take every morning, and that is one of them. We're going to get on with the show here, and I know Alpha wants to get on with the show here. Man, that looked all digitized and shit.
That's because of the green screen background that I got going. But I know sometimes
okay.
Stuff. There we go.
One announcement I do want to make, though, as we get going here, because I said Alpha isn't coming to the camping trip. For those who want to come to the camping trip, if you're out there, if you're in the area of St. Louis, Eureka, Missouri, the Red Pill family camping trip is July 24th and July 26th. Good people, real freedom, unforgettable weekend. I will be there. I'll be probably taking stage on Saturday, talking to the people through a PA system and stuff. It's going to be great. All I ask is RSVP. Just go on over to redpills.tv RSVP. And in this graphic that is over there on the event section, you can see RVs, tents, campers, vehicles, local hotels. You can stay anywhere you want. We have all the room on the land for RVs and tents and Class C's and Class D's, anything you want. But feel free to RSVP, even if you are tentative and coming. So hopefully we get to see you guys out there. I get to meet you, and Alpha will be with us next year because he dicked out on me at the last. No, I'm joking. No, he thought about coming, but he couldn't make it. So, but next year we'll try to get Alpha, Nino, and Scott and Jaco. I've already talked to them, and they're like, let's do it. So next year we're gonna have a big bash with the round table. It'll be a massive camping trip. It'll be pretty huge. But this year, just me. You get me. It'll be fun. We'll have a good time.
There's no such thing as just Josh. There's a lot with. Just imagine being able to be out under the stars, listening to the woods, and you get to just pick at Josh's brain and his stories. I'm telling you guys, if I could be there, I would. Just logistically and timing of all this stuff, it's hard. But I would definitely am going to be there next year. I have put my name on that. The family has said we're going next year, so I don't even have a choice. It's the
so you guys heard it here. If this motherfucker doesn't show up next year, we need to hold him responsible.
I will be there. So here's the thing, man. I want to get to the question. You know,
it's the question that drives you.
It is. So, Josh, in kind of your mind, what is the red pill, and how do you know you're awake? And I'm going to have a follow-up question at the end of the show that supplements this one. Maybe we answer it during the show or not. We'll see. And just so you guys know, this isn't scripted. Josh has no idea what my questions are, but this is where I want to start. What is the red pill to you, and what is being awake mean to you? And if it's the same, you can combine it.
No, they are absolutely not the same. Number one is I don't believe anybody on this planet is awake. I believe that there's people in various different states of awakening. Number two, what is the red pill? I think that the red pill is various different things that you notice within the construct of your reality that make you question what it is, why it is, how it is. There's this thing that happens to me when I look at the stars sometimes. I'll go outside on a clear night and I'll just gaze up at the stars. And I don't know if you've ever had those nights where your neck hurts so bad because you've been looking at the stars for so long, but I have like this, I start to zone out and I kind of go into my imagination, and I start to think in my imagination about leaving the galaxy and then seeing the local group. And then from the local group, you can begin to see the striations of the galaxies. And then you get further out and you start to see the whole universe coming in to existence. But then you try to get to the one singular point, the one point where it all started and began. And here's the thing is, we as human beings cannot comprehend that idea. And so for the red pill for me is when we stumble upon these various different ideas or concepts that are beyond the capacity of our mind to even understand, that then make us question reality in general and try to derive the understanding of those concepts and ideas, to try to figure out the mystery, to try to pull the mask off of reality. And I think it's those little things in life that happen to us, that occur, that change the process of our thought and the process of our minds, that completely change and transition our paradigm away from maybe something that was constructed, institutionalized, something that was indoctrinated, away from that and more into the context of open-mindedness. And I know that that is an arbitrary definition as well. My father used to tell me that there's 4 types of people in the world, right? Or there's 3 types of people. Hold on. There's a few different types of people in the world. There's people that live in a box. They don't know that the box exists, and they're happy with everything inside the box. The second type of people, they live in the box. They're well aware that the box exists, but they choose to live inside the box because it's simple. The third type of people, they control the people in the boxes. Then there's a 4th type of people. And the 4th type of people realized a long time ago that the box does not exist. And so my idea of the red pill is pushing the boundaries of your own understanding and conceptualization of reality, of mind, of thought, of understanding. I have a few different mottos that I live by. Number 1 is obviously the red pill motto: never believe anything anybody tells you, no matter who they are or what authority they possess or profess, unless you can prove it with your own research, volition, through your own inquiry and investigation. And there's a reason for that, because people blindly accept and believe what other people say simply through trust and loyalty. And I think that that is one of the most disingenuous levels of conceptual reality that we could have in this world, is just believing something simply because somebody says it. But my other ideas of reality have guided me a long way. Number 1 is I don't tend to believe in anything, that everything in the construct of belief is dynamic. It's always evolving and changing based upon my understanding of it. And that is obviously dynamic in nature. This goes to Romans 12:2. And I know Paul was talking about something else, but this is how I interpret it, is that do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. In other words, don't be brainwashed by everything that you're being seen within your environment and what people are telling you. Don't accept that plainly as what reality is. Instead, evolve and have a dynamic mind and go beyond the boundaries of what people believe and think, and determine for yourself what reality actually is. And that's kind of how I interpret it. But then I also have this whole concept, and this came through a lot of different spiritual experiences that I've had in my life, whether it's through drugs or meditation or just spiritual occurrences that happen in my life, is that Gabe talked about emergence, and emergence is a word that I understand, I believe, at a very, very high level, because I can kind of see emergence within systems and the system dynamics. I look at everything in systems theory, and everything is correlative subsystems that are operating in unison to kind of bring about our constructive reality. And when you have constructive subsystems that are working in unison, in parallel, or within symbiosis, you have emergent phenomena that are brought about by this, ancillary systems that generate from those subsystems correlating together. But one of the things that I've learned is that there's a secret to the universe. And I think that this is something that I've never read in any philosophy book. It's something that I've never heard any of these great gurus stand up and talk about. And this is actually an experience that I had. And maybe this is reminiscent of the constructive reality, the matrix that we live in. I had a meditation one night, and I say meditation because I go into a meditative trance or a meditative process. And I was like out of my body. I remember I woke up like from the meditation, my whole body's going, whoa. Like there's this massive hum over my whole body and everything's oscillating. It was feeling very electric. And I remember like I was moving inside my body, like I was touching the inside of my skin and my bones. And I remember jumping forward. And when I jumped forward, I began to just fly through this kind of grayish tunnel. And I came out into this area. It looked like mountains, but they were white mountains. They looked like crystal or energy mountains. And I remember there's this cliff like hanging over, and I go over and I'm sitting down on the cliff of this white energy mountain. And like, this was real. This was not like dreaming or anything. I'm completely conscious and aware during this. And I look out and I see the expanse of the universe. I see galaxies and colors and gas clouds. And I just see all of it like in its infinity. And I thought to myself, I'm in the mind of God. Like I'm in the mind of God. And then a voice came in my mind and said, well, if you're in the mind of God, then that means that you can ask any question. What question do you have? And I went to start thinking about a question, but you got to remember, like, I'm in it. I'm like in it. And I said, well, if I'm in the mind of God, if I'm in the bliss of the presence of God, there's no question to ask because all is known. And if all is known and there's no question to ask, then curiosity falls away. Mystery, intrigue are gone. And therefore you get what I consider to be, and people are going to yell at me because, you can't do that to God. Like, no, guys, this is my experience. This is my understanding of reality, is that I came to the understanding that God has a dilemma. That since God is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient, God can't question. God has no question to ask because he knows all the answers. There's no mystery to God. There's no intrigue. There's no curiosity. And they said, oh, now you know your purpose. And I went, oh, your purpose is to discover. Your purpose is to realize what God already knows. And I came back and came right back in my body. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. So I started to come up with this philosophy. I want to think. I want to have the thoughts that nobody ever has thought before in the history of existence. I want to have the thoughts come into my brain that nobody's thought ever before. I want to have epiphanies and aha moments because those are what cause us to evolve, to grow, to expand our understanding of nature and reality. Now, think about it. If people just have the continuous same thoughts over and over and over again, what does that do for the understanding of reality? It does nothing. But I want to have the ideas, the concepts come into my mind. I want to be able to analyze and understand reality to the point where I can ask the questions that nobody's ever asked before, that change and transform who they were and the way that they think. That to me was my purpose that was given to me through that whole process that I went through. And to this day, that's kind of like my motto I live by.
Change and transform. Very important words I want to bring it to. But again, getting to this concept of like an original thought. To do that, because I've gone there in like, how do I even set myself up to have what you just described? So I find it fascinating you brought this up because I've been there, not through the experience you had, but the ultimate consideration. I want an original thought, something that nothing in existence has ever thought about. Yep. The dilemma I found here is you got to abandon language. And so then I was like, okay, how do I have a thought if I abandon language? Well, then you have to have a language that's undiscovered or one that you've created, which goes back to what you said. How do you describe red? How do you describe, whatever the case may be? And I shared that to do this about a week ago. And I was, if you guys were like, what the hell is Alpha looking at? I was looking for this post from Dan Scavino because this thing drove me nuts, bro. For 3 days, it drove me nuts.
Did you find it?
I did. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up right now.
Before you bring it up and explain it, I want to just touch on what you just said.
Go for it.
I have 6 animals in my house. 3 cats, 3 dogs. I got a lizard. I got tons of different stuff in my house, right?
That's a zoo, bro.
Well, it is. But I always look at my animals and I go, how are they conceptualizing me? What is their thought structure that comes into their mind when they see me, and how do they associate that within their language of their mind? Right? Like, is it like, is that my name? Right? Like, is that how they recognize me? Like 2 cats talking, they're like, meow, 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 and they're just bitching about me, right? Like, that's the things that I think about. And I wonder, because here's the thing, is that happens, that they have to have that within the construct. And then the other part is babies in the womb. You remember Charlie Brown?
I do.
Okay. I got a conspiracy. Like, I got thoughts about Charlie Brown, that Charlie Brown was nothing more than babies in a hospel that were just kind of like fantasizing. The reason is how were the mothers talking? How were the parents talking? Well, those are babies in a womb. That's what babies in a womb hear when their mother talks. In other words, they don't hear language. They don't understand language, but yet when they're born, they have a construct of understanding reality, light and colors and vibrancy and all of this other stuff. The question is what is that baseline communication, that baseline programming that we're born with in reality that has that determination? Is it genetic memory that is passed down from mother to child genetically through mitochondrial DNA? Is it something more kind of like created on the spot due to the environmental constraints inside the womb that the forming brain begins to bring about? Is it something more deep ingrained within humanity, that there's this base, this base framework that we're all constructed within our brain foldings that helps us have a baseline understanding of reality? These are the questions that I ask, and people out there are like, this is a crazy conversation. Well, here's the reason. This is a crazy conversation because you've never thought of these things before.
Well, again,
and that's the point.
Again, in the Matrix, when Neo, right, finally decides to take the red pill, what happens to him? He unplugs from the Matrix, right? So he's unplugging from the system's, its language, its world, what it's created for him, right? So, Vinny's, to get to the point of this picture frustrated me, dude. It was like 2 days, maybe 3 days, where I was like, why can't I do this shit? I was like, it's a trick. It's a trick. That's what it is, right? Because I was so frustrated. But then I saw, in the comments, other people were like, oh, yeah, it's doing this. I'm like, man, people are lying. They're lying. Like, people just don't want to be the one that says you can't do it. Like, it's not possible, right?
Yeah.
And so I called the missus over and said, hey, take a look at this, right? I said, do this, right? There's instructions that comes to this. And she's doing it. She's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, you're lying. You just didn't do that in like 100 seconds when I've been battling this thing for 2 days, right? And anyway, so I stick with it. And then finally, that's what you're talking about, that epiphany, right? Finally, and I had given up for it. Came back to it after a few hours. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to allow all you guys to experience this. I bring it back up and I'm doing it. I'm looking. And then all of a sudden, poof, it happens, bro. It happens. And I'm like, oh, shit, I did it. Right. And then poof, it was gone. I was like, okay, get it back. Right. So this is like the what I'm working with. Right. And then finally it's just like, okay, now I got it easier. And then I got it easier. And it's hard to put into words the complication I had, but part of it was I was trying to control it in a way that was wrong. And when I relaxed and just started to actually focus on it's when the little light went on and I fulfilled what the request was. So I'm going to bring this up.
That's an epiphany. and an aha. And once you're done with that, I want to actually comment on a comment that someone left on Rumble about kind of the conversation we we're just having.
All right, so Dan Scavino posts this video. I'm going to hit play here. And in the post, he says, can you reverse the image? It's static right now. So I'm going to let it play. It's a 47-second video. I'm sure that was why
I do the ballerina. So I do the one with the ballerina or the horse.
So so the point here is I'm going to hit play. And the reason I wanted to hit play is because some people see it starting in a certain direction. So I didn't want to tell you guys what direction that it's going to be turning. I'll let you do it on your own. The point of this is for you, whatever direction you see it spinning, can you reverse it with your mind? I'm going to let it play for 47 seconds. The music's going to be. So if you were able to reverse the image, congratulations. That's literally what Scavino's asking. He said, he puts, just to make sure I quote him correctly, can you reverse the spin with your mind? Now, I don't think Dan Scavino was just bored and was like, I'm just going to put this out there just because it's cool. No, I think it goes hand in hand with this conversation. And it's the ability to recognize, do you have control of your mind? Do you have do you have enough control of your mind to observe something in front of you that you can't touch, you can't digitally manipulate, you can't do anything other than adjust your perception and the concept of your mind to make it do something the opposite of what it's doing? And if you were able to do that, I would love to see you guys in the chat in the comments, who was able to do it. Some of you that didn't, you're going to be on that part. You're going to clip it. You're going to be there all day. I was there. I feel you. Don't feel so bad. But I think it's a fundamental. We always want to get into the sexy part of the matrix. But I think the fundamental concept here, Josh, is, do you even have the ability to control how you see things? Do you have the ability to control how you think? Forget, don't abandon wanting to have original thought, but can you even control your thoughts?
It is such a great perspective to have, that this goes back as well to the idea of the power of the people. Donald Trump is returning the power back to the people. But I believe during the first term, they realized that the people had been without power for so long that they had no idea what that concept or understanding of power was that they had. And this goes back to the same idea, is that, do people even know how to think, to critically think, to analyze their environment? This is one thing that Alpha and I do a lot on all of our shows, is we help people see the landscape and environment that's around them, that's being manipulated, that's trying to influence or manipulate them in a certain way and degree. And we help people kind of understand the techniques and the methodologies that are utilized to do this. Well, the same thing happens for reality, even in real reality. And you have to learn how to use your mind, and you have to advance and continuously advance your mind to kind of do that. And, actually, I'm not going to call this person out, but it was just a comment that they made. And it's nothing wrong with the comment, but the comment's wrong. And the comment is that dogs don't have thought. They live in the moment. So therefore, no thought. That's wrong. That's actually a 20th century paradigm understanding that derived from the commercialization of the farms and the meat markets, coming out and stating that animals don't have consciousness, that animals are just mechanistic machines, biological machines, and they have no consciousness. The idea that dogs have no thought, that's wrong. That's not real. The dogs absolutely, they have a language. and they have critical thought and analysis of their environment. They have thought. I think maybe they were misinterpreting and saying that dogs don't have long-term memory. So dogs have problems with retaining long-term memory. So they have very, very short-term memory. So their thought structure only lasts a couple of minutes. And then it's like squirrel. That's kind of why that all came about with the whole squirrel thing, is because dogs have very, very short attention spans. But that thought construct, they do have memories. They do have, I mean, they wouldn't remember who you were or who feeds them if it wasn't the case. I mean, every 12 hours they wake up like, where am I? Right? Like, that's not what's happening. Dogs absolutely do think. And all animals think, and all animals are aware at some level and degree. And that's a massive misconception. Why? Because that was a psychological warfare tactic utilized by industry to get you to eat more chicken, to eat more meat, to buy more products off the shelf, and not worry about the humanitarian aspect of the slaughter of billions of chickens and billions of cows. And I know that, like, that's the one part that we don't think about, right? You ever wonder why they named steaks or hamburger, or pork, right? It's because it dehumanizes the actual meat, that you don't get to see the cow, the chicken, or the pig. Instead, what you see is you see steak, you see hamburger, you see chicken thigh, right? You don't get the dehumanization of what it actually was and how it was slaughtered. And that's psychological warfare. And I mean, as simple as that, to kind of then going into the social media domain and talking about politics and culture in what I like to call the synthetic culture wars. It's that all of this is how your mind interprets the reality and the construct that it works and operates within. And that we need to be critical analyzers of how we see the world, of how we see our reality. Stop blindly accepting what you see simply because you believe you see it. Have you ever heard the story of the Indian chief in the 1400s? There was an Indian chief, and every morning he would go out and he would look upon the ocean, and he began to see these ripples in the water. And he would look, and he would try to figure out what's causing the ripples in the water. And every day he would go out there and the ripples would get closer and closer. And one day he goes out there and he finally sees it, because he opened his mind to the idea that maybe it's something that he doesn't know or never even thought of before. And he sees the big boats causing the ripples. But see, a ship wasn't in the construct of his reality. So therefore, his brain didn't know what to generate in place of something it did not understand. So it created this whole delineation to figure out what it was and allow them to notice the ripples. And I think that a lot of the UFO phenomena are actually this. That I believe with the UFO phenomena, a lot of the alien extraterrestrial phenomena, all of this stuff, that it's things that we can't understand that are beyond the conceptual power of our brain, that when we observe it, our brains go in there and say, I don't know what the fuck this is. It's definitely not computing in my reality. So let me go into my reality, look for mysterious types of things that exist within my memory, and construct something out of that to say that that's what this is. This is why I believe, you ready for this one? This is why I believe that if you look at the history of UFOs from the 1940s to present date, that you get the 1940s into the 1950s saucer-shaped objects. From the 1970s into the 1980s, you get triangle-shaped objects. From the 1990s into present day, you get small miniature drone-like objects. Why do you have this transitional shape of the structure of UFOs over the decades? The reason I believe is because you can follow right along with that of what was happening in the public and the entertainment domains that were basically transfixing on flying saucers. Number one is I'm forgetting the guy's name right now, but the first reports of flying saucers over in Washington State, He didn't say that they were flying saucers. He said that they were triangle-shaped objects that were skipping off of the atmosphere like a saucer. And the news reported that as flying saucers. So what happens is the media and entertainment go out there and they start making movies about flying saucers. Now, what do people begin to see everywhere? Flying saucers. Well, then you get other movies that come out, these big starships and stuff like that. Triangle and craft UFOs get put in through writers and creative innovation of Hollywood. Now people begin to see these things as triangles. And then all of a sudden you have, Transformers and drones and Terminator and drones following you around because technology and CGI advances. And now what do people see? They see these orbs and they see these metal balls that fly around. Why? Because that's your brain filling in the blanks of what it doesn't understand, creating something, but it's lying to you, only giving you a depiction of what it believes it is. It goes back to the whole idea that your brain is not telling you what is out there. It's telling you what it believes is out there or what it's interpreting to be out there. It goes back to the quote that Gabe brought in by William Blake. It is that if the doors of perceptions were cleansed, the reality would appear to man as it truly is, infinite. In other words, our reality has perception, that has filters of perception. And our filters of perception are environmentally constrained. They are indoctrinated. They are through education. They're through parental constraints. They're through the understanding of the baseline reality that you've had since you're a child, the current date, that if you started to remove all of that, you filtered all of that out. And there's actually an easy way within the spiritual world how to do this is to start to limit your senses. This is why people take drugs. This is why they go into float tanks. They'll go into a float tank and they'll limit their sense of smell and taste and touch and sight and hear. And what happens? They begin to hallucinate. Their brain begins to produce images. That these images, by the way, are spiritual revelations. They talk to God. They see spiritual beings and entities. Why? Because maybe those things are actually right there, right now, all the time. And they're trying to talk and communicate with us. But we have this understanding of reality that filters it all out. How was that? Is that good?
You got my brain going a million miles an hour. I don't know if I would consider it the same thing. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. A few weeks ago, my smallest one, she just turned 3, right? My little princess. And she wanted a toy from her older sister. Older sister was like, no, it's my toy. They do share, but this was one of those times where I was like, I told her, nope, you can't have that. It's your sister's. So she gets emotional, right? And she starts to, do her little, I call it her dramatic cry, right? And she takes off running. We're in the master bedroom. And as she's running, there's a long mirror, like those tall standing mirrors that's like right by the door. She looks at it and pumps the brakes. And she starts looking at herself and she's looking at herself cry. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if she's never seen herself cry before. Right. It's because not like, she's an older, teenager or something that has like a makeup mirror. So she's sitting there, she sees herself crying and I'm watching her analyze this. Right. So her tears start to subside. And like, you could tell she's trying to figure out like, how do I make myself cry again? Now, I can't understand what's going on in her head. Right. I'm just observing, the facial reaction. And then I see her do, in Spanish, we call it pucheras. Right. She starts doing this this little, scrunching of the nose, punching her. Yes, right. She starts to do that. And then all of a sudden she makes herself cry. And then the tears start coming out. Then she laughs. I'm tripping out. I'm watching this because now she realizes, I did it. I mean, those things come out, right? I'm assuming by making herself feel sad, but then the excitement and the joy of accomplishing what she was trying to do made her laugh, right? So I watched this goes on. And the reason that's interesting for me is because her worldview of things is completely different than mine or ours as an adult, right? She has a very limited scope on how to judge things, right? A very limited scope on the words that she hears, the movies and the TV and the cartoons we watch. Like it's a very limited world at 3 years old. But it was still this thing where she controlled something and made it happen. So emotions, she obviously realized that there was an emotion there that she had to kind of try to generate, right? It was adorable. But I use that as an example of right now, when I see people in the chat were like, I couldn't get it. Like what? I promise you guys, it's not a trick. I didn't trick you guys. The people in the audience are not lying to you. I now I look at it, and just to make it easier for you guys, if you go back and do the replay, I focus on the top part of it, and for me, it always starts off spinning counterclockwise. Like that's the direction it always starts off for me. And then I focus on the top, and by focusing on the top, I'm able to make it then start spinning clockwise. Like this is
now do you know what the whole point of that is, right? That basically what's happening is you have a very beaten path of neurological configurations of how you see the world, right? So you have this kind of default neurological patternization of how you see the world. And so that's you seeing it going clockwise or counterclockwise. But then if you can switch that, you're actually transitioning neural patterns within your brain. So the easiest way to actually, for anybody out there, that one that Scavino posted is rather difficult if you've never done this before. There's one called the spinning ballerina. And the reason that this one is much easier to see is because just you focus on the leg, right? Focus on the ballerina. You'll notice the way she turns to the right or to the left. You concentrate enough, she can turn on the other side, right or left. Enjoy. And there's another one with like a horse, I think. But so if you look at the ballerina, right, she's moving this way. But what I want you to do is when the leg gets to this side, immediately move your body this way and then go back and forth like this. What you'll see is it starts to go back and forth like this because it's not actually spinning. What's occurring is it's just flipping the image back and forth like this. And so you can look at it and you can kind of take it left and you can take it right, take it left and take it right, take it left and take it right, take it left and take it right. And what's happening there is your brain is actually transitioning the neural pathways of which it's observing reality through. And this is something I've trained myself to do. Like I used to watch this for hours to try to figure it out, but to be able to do it instantaneously on spot. And the reason I say that is because when I do my meditations, the one thing that I do is I use the same mentality of transitioning the way that she's moving to transition into that other neural structure of how my mind actually works. One way to do it is bob your head back and forth, just left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And you can slow this down as well, and it gets better. But yeah,
I made her switch. I just couldn't get it to go back.
Yeah, but so the ballerina is one of the better ones to do that with. But so many people are like, well, it's left brain and right brain. Well, that's not necessarily it. I mean, your colossus collaborum basically connects both hemispheres of your brain. But maybe that's another.
But here's the point to this, and if I'm wrong here, correct me. If we can do this to an image, how can we deploy this in the reality to anything else?
Well, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Is number one is many people look at that and they'd be like, oh my God, I can do it. That's so cool. You remember like the magic eye stuff? Like, oh my God, I can do it. But now let me ask you this, Alpha. What did you do? Exactly. That's the problem. Is nobody understands what they just did. So basically, you have to have a framework of understanding of how the mind works, right? What is a thought?
Oh, this is a good conversation.
What is a thought?
I think it's as complicated or as simple as you understand. Is it is a thought, something just came in my mind of me building a house that has a pool and all this is a thought? But if my mind just says A, the letter A in my mind, isn't that a thought too? So
well, it is.
It is. So wouldn't it just be the creation or manifestation of something that's in your mind?
So do you know how a computer works?
Yeah, push the power button, power's on.
Okay. But inside that computer, you have random access memory, you have read-only memory, so you have permanent memory and temporary memory. You have a CPU, you have a timing unit added onto that CPU, right? You have a graphics card, you have all these different components. But at the heart, you have various points of base programming, right? Base programming that operates your computer. So when you look at your computer and you're seeing Google Chrome and a web browser and you're seeing images and all of this stuff, actually what's going on behind the scenes is that is computer code that is being translated. So what I want you to do with the understanding of a thought is remove the data, the idea of the data that's being displayed out of it. I want to know the nuts and bolts. What is a thought actually in your brain? How is it actually happening? What is it? And when we break this down, one of the things that you realize is that a thought is basically electrical discharges, electrical conductions and discharges between the neurons in your brain. But here's the thing. The neurons in your brain are densely compacted, okay? And when they're densely compacted, they don't nicely pack one on top of another. They densely compact in various different angles from each other, right? So are you following along? So imagine one neuron and another one offsets 42 degrees, and then you have 1,000 of them stacked on that are offset at 1,000 different angles, okay? And then that happens trillions of times, which means that the configuration of your brain is completely unique to the configuration of my brain. Our neural density patterns are not the same. Okay? Now, just understand that. Now, within that framework, within that neurological structuring density of your brain, you have electrical and biochemical and bioelectrical firing patterns that occur. So a thought is a firing sequence over time of bioelectrical and biochemical signaling in your brain, right? That's how you define it, is that in your brain, you have these various different trillions of cells of neurons compacted together in their own unique form. And when the thought occurs, that is, I want you to think about this for a second, is that one thought is imagining various different parts of that grid structure lighting up. So you have part here, part here, part here, part here, part here, lighting up. That's a thought. What is that? That is oscillation patterns of the environment coming in and stimulating your brain being stimulated. That neural pathway that stimulation takes is the oscillation of those various different parts of your brain, which light up with electrical signaling that say, hey, this is what that is. That has a reference guide to what reality is. So a thought is the firing of sequences and patterns over time inside your brain. Now that we've defined what a thought is, if people watch that ballerina and all they see is it going this way, that means that your configuration of your neural dense patterns when you observe reality is always going through the same pathway. It's not changing your pathway. But when you transition and all of a sudden it goes whoop the other way, your brain is now using a new baseline neural pathway to interpret its reality because it realizes it's seeing something different. Now imagine is if in your reality, that is how you viewed the world. That every day I looked for epiphanies and ahas. I looked for the questions or the analysis that nobody's ever thought or thunk before. Guess what that does? It takes that neural pathway configuration and begins to deviate it every day. That your brain has to now restructure how it thinks in order to understand the reality it's trying to interpret. In other words, it becomes dynamically evolving over time. That is one thing that I live by. I do it every day intentionally because I believe that's the purpose.
To bring us back to where this started, and then I gotta run an ad because I want us to keep going. Ooh. Then now we understand the group of people that say there is no box.
That's right. Liberals.
Give me a second. I'm gonna run one. Hopefully that gives you time to find one, folks. Right up on the screen, in just a second, you're gonna see a QR code probably populate over Josh's face if I did this right. You guys know I've had these people on the show quite some time. Neutronics Labs, free IGF-1 plus platinum when you do the auto ship. Let me grab this great stuff to show you guys. It's going to affect, yes, you're going to lose weight. Yes, you're going to help to build muscles. Yes, you're going to fat burn. It's going to help improve your sleep. It's going to help you combat cortisol. It's going to definitely help you boost your energy and libido. When I first started, it's always been the man's edge right here, the testosterone booster. This stuff is phenomenal. This is not just for the guys, ladies. This is for you too. And they got an upgraded formula for you ladies too. When you get this, when you get the man's edge, they are automatically, if you get the auto ship, going to give you this one for free. This is the IGF-1, right? This is a 300,000 nanograms. This is the one that has the long jack. This is what you're going to get. Once you start realizing how great this is and how immediate of an impact that it has on your health, then you can upgrade. This is what I've upgraded to. This is the IGF 1 million nanograms. This is the gold bottle. This is the Maximus. I just had Ron and Doc and those guys on a few days ago. I'll be airing that for you guys. The cool thing is I learned that you can actually stack these. When I first took this stuff, within not even a minute, one of the things that I realized right out of the gate, I was early in the morning as well. I was doing a show with Ron Oliver, and everything, the images on my screen looked crisp. Like it had that type of effect on my eyes. Now, granted, it was probably a very fast effect for me because I have been detoxing my body. I have been careful and conscious of what I'm eating, but the stuff is great. Now, ladies, they have the IGF solution for you guys. They 4X the formula. It has special things in there like cranberries and stuff for you ladies that you have going on there. But I'm telling you, don't think, oh, this is just to grow muscles. No, this stuff is overall going to help your body out. And it's natural. You're not going to get synthetic stuff in here. So again, when you guys have a chance, I want you guys to head over to neutronicslabs.com/alpha. And for 50% off with the auto ship and a platinum bottle of the IGF-1 completely free of charge. Plus, you'll get an extra 10% off when you use code alpha there. So again, you guys, neutronicslabs.com/alpha. If you're watching on my platforms, you'll see that link populate. Josh, it's yours.
What the fuck? Was that an infomercial? Jesus. That's the longest damn Rumble ad script I've ever heard in my life.
You know what it is? Because one, it's the ad's actually really short. It's really short. But the shit is awesome. Like, dude,
we'll be back in 10 minutes.
The thing is awesome. And I'll tell you what, man, if you're not interested in all the other benefits, but you and your husband or you and your wife want to definitely increase your libido to keep this, PG, for those that have family around.
Mr. Winky, stiffy.
This stuff is super, super good, folks. And again, if you got any specific questions about it, feel free.
Do you know why they call him Mr. Winky?
Why?
Because he's only got one eye.
One eye. Okay. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to answer that one, dude. I was just like, I like what
all he can do is wink.
Vicente in the chat says, but wait, there's more.
But wait, there is more. Any idea of evolution or anything being random? This show is wowzer. Awesome. Thank you, Patty G. I appreciate it.
Very cool.
And I don't believe in determinism, by the way. I don't believe in determinism. So you want to know what I believe in? I want to create my own philosophical model only because I can never find anything that aligns with how I see the world. I believe that we live in a dynamically evolving emergent world. What does that mean? A universe that's dynamically evolving and emergent. That it's building, it's holographic, and that it's basically fractal. So the holographic nature comes as an emergent part of the fractal nature, compressing and compounding on top of itself over and over and over and over again. And from that, you get new emergent effects that are dynamically orchestrated through a constructed evolution that is basically set in place by, like what Gabe was talking about, the various different patterns that are in place. Look at those as laws. And I think that we can look at the universe and determine a philosophy on life and reality, because if we start to look at everything, it's basically the same thing happening over and over and over and over again. And I've only heard one person talk about this on the mainstream level. But he was talking about it in the context of entropy, which is chaos and disorder, and that the universe is actually moving to a state of zero energy. But he said that what if entropy actually moves through points of optimization? And I said, well, that's it. Everything moves to a point of optimization. And so I believe that we exist in a dynamically evolving and emergent universe, which means that tomorrow is not determined. Because I want you to think about right now inside your body, just inside your brain, there's trillions of cells inside your brain. There's trillions of cells inside your body. Now there's billions of people on this planet. There's billions of molecules on this planet. There's just think about the space between the sun and now. Think about all of the high level interactions that are occurring just within the cellular structure, within the planetary biome that's occurring. Think about the trillion to a trillionth power of interactions that are occurring. I mean, that is an infinite amount of possibilities that can just derive on this single planet of all what tomorrow is going to be. Now take that into the context of the whole universe. And so this is actually a good transition back into the conversation we were just having, because you were talking about Atari and game consoles.
Well, before we get there, because I want to touch on something here. Have you ever heard people say tomorrow doesn't belong to you?
Tomorrow doesn't exist?
Yeah, well,
tomorrow never happens.
I've heard that.
Free beer tomorrow.
Tomorrow doesn't belong to you, and there's a lot of different ways people have delivered it. One of them, I heard it recently, and as a matter of fact, it was a health motivation video, and it says we rob ourselves by we make a promise for tomorrow in order for us to enjoy the euphoric feeling of accomplishment right now.
Live through today,
yeah, and it's one of the worst things that you can do, because it becomes habit. You never make progress. It's always do it now. But here's the thing. What if, to kind of consider the concept of time, time and time travel, when I get a book, right? If I grab a book and the book has 100 pages, right? Well, I open that book, I can go to page 30, right? Then I turn the page, I go to page 31. What if I don't want to go to page 31? What if I just want to go all the way to page 50? And what if I'm on page 50 and I don't want to go to 51 now? I want to go all the way back to page 2. Am I changing the book? No. Am I changing the storyline of the book? No. All I'm doing is I'm changing the page I choose to dive into and make a reality in that moment. You see where I'm going with it?
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. And actually, what you're changing is the individualized interpretation of the book. And the reason I say that is because if you go to page 50 and it's telling you something that, oh, you remember this time in the book when this happened and this happened and this happened? Well, now this happens. And now you go to page 2 and it's the foreshadowing event that brings that about. Now your understanding of that book is completely transformed because your brain knows what's going to happen next. So now you can anticipate more events and possible things that occur within the book with a higher level of accuracy because you have inside information of what happens next.
So with that understanding, if I had a traumatic event at 5 years old and now I'm 46 years old, can I take the knowledge and experience that I've had in the 41 years since that traumatic event and go back to that page in the book to relive it, not to experience what happened, but to change how it impacts me now in the present? And if you can do that, Josh, is this not you changing the direction of that spinning cylinder of stars for your life? And if you can change that emotion by diving into your past with this, like you said, the construct of knowing what that book looks like for the next 41 years, now you've changed the future of your book by going back. Am I making sense? If not, I'll clarify myself.
So it's really interesting what you're talking about, because good friend of mine called me up a few months ago, and this was after he took my workshop. So the workshop on occultism that I had, and if people haven't taken that, it's really fascinating. I actually get into a lot of what Alpha's talking about right now. But Yeah, there's techniques where you can go in and you can put yourself into a state of hypnosis, self-hypnosis, where you can go back and relive that memory in your mind of that point in time and take that new information that you have right now and apply it to that whole event. And what happens in the brain is the brain begins to rewire the trauma with the answer that solves the solution. So yes, the answer is yes.
And I'm just saying it's time travel. I don't know, man. The point I'm just trying to make is we have way more control over our lives than we allow ourselves to do. And I was hoping that somehow we could kind of set up a future conversation that has to do with the power of manifestation.
Well, dude, we have to do a part 2 to this show because
I agree.
We're over an hour and a half in.
And the reason being is, when he in the title, Neo, the Matrix has you still, right? Does it have you? And this goes back to the original question, right? What's the red pill? What's being awake? And if you followed the series of the Matrix movies, what do we learn that the Matrix does? It evolves and it recreates itself to have the people now be just in the new Matrix where they think they're awake. And so I love what you said, that I don't think anyone's awake. I think we're awakening. I think that is like the perfect mindset to have, because it prevents you from becoming static and thinking that you've accomplished it, which to me is the most dangerous thing, because now the Matrix has used your own ego and your own, your pride of, oh, I'm awake, it can't ever trap me, to now the Matrix just uses your own ego to build the new Matrix around you. And this one's more dangerous because it's you're creating it and you're putting yourself into this world where you think that you become awake. And where I see people, and I see this happening a lot, especially within the truth community, is people think, oh, I'm awake. And I think what a lot of people have failed to realize is, no, you've made it to the next level. But now we need to get to the next level. And we should always be in pursuit of being awake. It needs to be a goal that doesn't have an endpoint, because the endpoint's what becomes dangerous. Right. If we're always in pursuit of it, then we're never satisfied and we're always seeking and seeking. And I think that's very important.
Well, and you want to know why right now is so dangerous to what we're talking about here? Because I guarantee you there's people out there that are listening to this right now and they're like, what just happened? Like, they just turned my whole freaking life upside down with this, right? Critical analysis. But I'm going to read, I want to read something for you. The Matrix was never just about escaping machines. It was about waking up to the systems that quietly shape your perception. Today, AI is becoming the interface between humanity and reality itself. The question isn't whether we're living in a simulation. The question is whether we're willing to surrender our ability to think, question, and perceive reality directly. The next battlefield won't just be fought over territory or resources. It'll be fought over consciousness itself. And in that war, your attention may be the most valuable resource on Earth. Now, why is that important? Because the part here, the question isn't whether we're living in a simulation. The question is whether you're willing to surrender our ability to think, question, and perceive reality directly. Now, why that's so dangerous, Alpha, is because most people in the world cannot already, before AI, think for themselves, question reality, or perceive the reality that they're naturally observing, but instead they're observing a constructed reality. So people ask me all the time, why do I use the word constructed narrative? So a constructed narrative is a fake narrative. Okay, it's psychological warfare and manipulation. It's information warfare. And it doesn't matter if it's the good guys doing it or the bad guys doing it. It is constructed. It is built slowly over time with the influence of information. But here is the deeper part that nobody really ever realizes. Every constructed narrative is a manipulation on your perception of reality. It is giving you a falsified understanding of the world and reality around you. Hence why on my show, on the shows me and Alpha do, I always call things constructed narratives, because they're not real. They're synthetic and designed. They're structured to be exactly that, to have you misinterpret your reality to the point where you become easily influenced towards whatever agenda they're trying to bring about. In other words, most people cannot critically think through the real world of which we live in due to the sheer amount of psychological and information manipulation and warfare that is occurring on an everyday basis, to the point where most of humanity lives in a synthetic, designed, and constructed reality that is controlled and dominated by the venues of which they take in information: governments, institutions, intelligence agencies, or influencers.
I want to ask you a question. I really want to get your thought on this. And we'll get to the Rumble rants and that stuff, but this is such an important conversation. I want to make sure that at least we close this segment out with a pathway to people continue to think on it.
Oh, we're going to do part 2 next week.
Okay, I love that idea. Why do people struggle with making themselves the hero of their own story? I really want to understand your thought process here.
Why do people struggle with making themselves the hero in their own journey? Bro, that's a deep question, and I do have a very long, drawn-out answer on it, but I don't think most people are going to want to hear it.
I love when you say that, Jay. Here's why. And you know, maybe we'll leave everybody. We'll get into the Rumble Watts. We'll talk about some things here, and we'll save that.
This is going to be the cliffhanger for next week, because because I'm going to go after religion.
Whoo. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna be open, you know, but you know, I get what you're saying though. And notice what he said: religion, not God.
That's right.
There's a difference there. And the reason I bring up this question, and for those of you that were at GART, you heard me bring this up. I was watching this video clip with Matthew McConaughey, and whether it was really him or AI, I think it was real because it was actually talking about his life. But he says he was asked this question very young, you know, in his career, but still very young. And they said, "Who's the hero of your story?" Or no, who's your hero? It wasn't your story, just who's your hero? And he said he was thinking, and he was thinking, and he told the person that asked him, he goes, "Me, but in 15 years or 10 years." I think it was like 10 years. And so anyways, to go about life, and this guy who's a, you know, important part of his life, 10 years, hits him up, says, "Hey, we're 10 years later. Did you meet the hero? You the hero in your story?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "Well, who's the hero of your story?" He goes, "Me, but in 10 years.
That's right.
And what he did was he created this mentality that he was always going to be in pursuit of something that he could never catch.
Yes.
and it was cool because when he's doing the interview and he says that he shared this with other people, he said so many people were kind of pushed back by him when he said, you know, because he went into another comment where somebody said, "You're so full of yourself." And he responds to them, "Who else should I be full of?" And this is the part. I feel like this construct of society has made us be like, you shouldn't see yourself as a hero. You shouldn't be full of yourself. That's prideful. That's egotistical. Well, that mindset is also very limiting.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can see yourself as the hero, if you can be full of yourself, that opens up an infinite amount of possibilities of what you see for yourself. It also opens up the ability to love yourself in a way you've probably never loved yourself before. And if you can garner that kind of love and self-respect for yourself, then what can you offer the world?
So in the movie The Matrix, Neo goes to the Oracle. And when he walks in there, above the entrance to the kitchen where the oracle is, and where the black lady cooking cookies or baking cookies, she looks at Neo. She lights up a cigarette. She goes, "Do you know what that means?" And he looks and he sees the sign that sits above the door. And it says, Temet Nocius. And it's actually, there's two variations of this. It's Ipsum te Nocius and Temet Nocius. And it's Latin. She goes, it's Latin. It means know thyself. Now, this comes about from Socrates and Plato and from a lot of the Greeks. But the idea is that the oracle at the Oracle of Delphi, at the entrance into the cave, she had written this, Temet Nocius, or Ipsum te Nocius, which is know thyself before you entered in to learn about yourself. So the idea behind this is that you have to know who you are. And people are like, I know who I am. I'm a man playing a man, pretending to be another man, right? Like, but that is comedic, but it's so true. Because depending on who you're talking to, you're a different person. And this is what I want people to take away from this part that we're talking about right now. Start to question who you are. You are never going to discover who you are without questioning who you believe yourself to be. And really deeply analyze who you believe yourself to believe. And if by the way, if you start to write down on a pen and paper right here and you go in front of yourself, you're like, who am I? And you start to say, I was a high school football player. I was a college graduate. I'm a good Christian man or woman. Then you have no fucking clue who the hell you are. And I will tell you that right now from doing this for many, many years with people. Because I take people, so I used to do like personal consulting with people, business owners. It's the first question I'd ask them, who are you? Tell me who you are. And they go, oh, well, I graduated college and I got a degree. I played D1 football. And, then I started I said, that's not who you are. That's who you were. I said, you cannot determine your current state of who you are by who you were in the past. Because if you are not happy with who you are now, if you're not satisfied with who you are now, that whole derivation came about of who you believe yourself to be. That came about because of everything that we just talked about. High school and college and D1 football and education and building your business. Who you are now is the derivation of those things. And if you identify with those things, the person you are now is never going to change. But instead, you have to become who you want. You have to be now who you want to become then. And I always do the idea of the vision with God. So this is something for everybody out there that kind of realize who they are. And I want to help them on this, okay? So number one is the first thing, ask yourself and write it down. Like, okay, this is who I am. And look at those things and understand that the only reason you are at where you are at right now is because those are the things that you believe yourself to be. Those are the identifying factors of who you believe yourself to be. But I'm going to tell you, that's not who you are. That might be what has defined you to this point, but that is not what you are or who you are. If you want to start realizing who you are truly and who you're becoming, you have to understand what you are about to become. Now, to understand that, you have to go all the way to the end. You have to be like Alpha and say, hey, I'm going to fast forward to the last page of the fucking book, and I'm going to read what it says. And guess what? You can do this really, really easily. Lay back in your chair, in your bed, wherever you are. Just do not lay back and close your eyes in a fucking moving vehicle if you are driving. But imagine for a moment that it's your last day on Earth. I don't know. 4,000 years into the future, we have this great technology that expands lifestyle, and a spaceship runs into a spaceship, you fly through the windshield, and you get thrown into an asteroid. I don't fucking know, but it's your last day on the planet. You go up to the pearly gates, you're St. Peter there, and he's like, "Oh, welcome in," and he says, "How was the trip?" You'd be like, "Man, it was a crazy trip, dude. It was freaking awesome, right?" And you start walking down the big hall to go see the old man, and you're like, you see God, and you're like, oh my God, it's God, holy shit. And you start walking down the hall, and you start getting closer. I mean, this hall is fucking long, right? And it's like you're walking for an eternity. But you're walking and all of a sudden you're getting closer and closer to God, and you see somebody standing next to him. You're like, oh my God, is that Jesus? Is that Jesus? Oh my God, I wonder what the apostles, right? Like you're wondering, like, what the hell is, but you start to get closer and you're like, holy fuck, that's me. That's me standing next to God. And you get up and you go, God, like, this is crazy. Why am I standing next to you? And God says, well, this is how I judge you. You go, what? And you go, see, the you standing next to me is my image of you, the perfect you that I gave all the opportunities to, that I gave every ability and chance to succeed in life to, that took advantage of all of those things. That is the you standing next to me. And my question to you, as you stand before me now, is how do you rate against him? Are you that person? Or how far away from him are you? Now, if you can answer that question, then you know who you need to become. And that person who you are becoming, that image of God that God gave to you, that's who you are now. You are always going to be becoming that person, that man. Never going to be the man of the past.
I really like that, man. Earlier, it's very powerful. Earlier in the show, and I'm not going to forget the Rumble Rants, folks, I promise. Earlier in the show, when you brought up original thought, and for those of you that have never thought about it, it's very hard to come up with an original thought, right? It sounds very easy, but it's very hard. But if we're all created unique and there's no one else like you, and you can get to the point where you can answer who you are, I mean, it almost seems like it's an opportunity to have your first original thought, because nobody else could have thought of that, because no one else is you. Mm-hmm. So I kind of found that this is kind of what I was thinking about while you were saying that. Meaning, it's fascinating, folks. In order to break out of the matrix, you got to realize who you are, because when you realize who you are, you're going to realize the power that was bestowed upon you. And that's critical, especially with what's coming. And discernment plays a lot into that. Your faith spirituality plays a lot into that, and understanding the construct and the limitations and the walls that governments, politics, and religion have put on you in order to not let you go beyond what they've deemed okay, right? That, think of it as the analogy, the ice wall, right? These are the ice walls of our minds that they've created for us. I want to go outside the ice wall. That's where I want to be.
Yep. And let me point this also out. Is you are not right in your reality or in the world simply because you believe what somebody told you, or what you read, or what you learned, or what you understand to be reality. Let me tell you this. Everybody is wrong. Even the smartest people in the entire world, who maybe are the best Christian people in the world, the Pope, they're all wrong. I'm wrong. Alpha's wrong. Everybody's fucking wrong. The reason why everybody's wrong on the understanding of reality, the nature of consciousness and everything like that, simply because God is unknowable. And I
think I'm close, though. I think I'm close.
Huh? Well, you can be as close as you want, but guess what? You're still going to be wrong. and that is the thing, is you're not God. And we are not God. So therefore, we cannot know absolutism. We cannot know totality. So therefore, our interpretation of absolutism and totality will always be wrong.
Which is a good thing.
Absolutely, because it keeps us guessing. It keeps the curiosity and the mystery and the intrigue moving forth. It keeps the epiphanies and the aha moments coming.
Yes, it does. I got my Rumble Rants pulled up, so I'm going to read these real quick, and I'll turn it over to you. I got a few of them. Again, starting from the very beginning of the show, $10 coming from Rotten Dog, did it via the Rumble wallet, so some tethered gold right there. Freaking super badass. Jackie Espada rated the stream. Shout out to Jackie over there at Badlands. Disclaimer, dollar for dollar, Keith O'Higgins says, Josh, you could have asked God if the book of Numbers in the Bible was standard or metric. Of course, that would be Keith, but he kept the PG, so I'm grateful. $20 coming in from S. Hole. If there is a satellite monitoring of military bases, is Utah Valley University close to any bases? Just a random thought that popped into my head. I am not aware if there's any specific military bases around there. I would imagine there is.
None that are on a map.
So, and then Texas Jewel gifted 5 subscriptions. So thank you for that. And also became a monthly supporter. So thank you for that, Texas Jules.
Southwestern Utah. That's about the best hint I'll give you. But it's not on a map. So look on Google Earth. You'll start to see some indications of it.
You're like, that looks like a military base. That's all I had for the Rumble rants. So I'll give it to you, brother.
All right. Rotten Dog, $20 Rumble rant tipped via the wallet. Thank you so much, Rotten Dog. VP Nichols, $5 Rumble rant. Josh, is there a spot for you to cover your spaceship theory? Thanks from New Zealand. That's next week. Part 2, we will get into a lot more of this, including spaceship theory and what that all means. We're going to get into the real simulation aspect of this and the matrix aspect. We had to do a groundwork tonight. You have to get a base foundation to understand why what we talk about next is so critically important. And I think the best part here is that if you don't know who you are, if you can't critically think and analyze, and if you believe everything that you see and hear, then you're going to have a really hard problem with AI. You're going to be controlled and manipulated. And that's what me and Alpha are trying to help people understand and learn how to learn themselves and understand themselves. So I appreciate VP Nichols.
You don't want to not know who you are before AI goes sentient.
Agreed. $1 Rumble rant. I am Nuke Mag. That's Mega Nuke over there. No more red pills. Switch to suppositories. Will work a lot faster. Keep gunning, fellas. I appreciate you, brother. Jen Thomas 3, $50 Rumble rant here. Red Pill Project. What exactly is the fountain of youth that the elite have been chasing for years? Fountain of youth makes me so sad. Thank you both. Peptides. And there's peptides and there's various different therapies that have been developed. None of them, by the way, are mRNA, which is really interesting. But the idea is that aging is a disease. And you have oxidative stress that removes various different methyl groups from from your DNA. And so your DNA has basically all your DNA is exactly the same. And the defining factors are where the methyl groups are actually plugged in and where they are at. And over time, the oxidative stress of life and living moves and removes and basically alters those methyl groups and causes you to age and degrade your DNA over time. So what they're saying is that the fountain of youth that they're looking for is the ability to refresh that DNA back to its original source code. And they believe that they've done that. Space Shot 76 rated the stream. Thank you so much, Space Shot 76. And Texas Jules is now a monthly supporter. And thank you so much, Texas Jules. And let me go in here. I wasn't able to check YouTube. I know we got a lot of jewels that came in from YouTube. Too many that it's like dozens. But send a high five. Denise Blaine 3737, 100 jewels, a high five. Thank you so much, Denise, over there. We have Helen S111 sent 200 jewels, the flow state. Thank you so much there. Appreciate that. And then we have Benton 72, 10 jewels for the thumbs up. Appreciate that, Benton. And let me go here. We're almost through it. We have Cowgirl 77 1000 sent a red card, 250 jewels. Thank you so much, Cowgirl. Appreciate that. You guys are awesome on YouTube. And X, and I know X, once X Pay comes in, it'll be a lot different. But appreciate all of you guys supporting everything that we do here, myself and Alpha. We are definitely blessed to have such a loyal audience that is just absolutely amazing in understanding the concepts that we talk about, because a lot of this stuff is very, very high level. I mean, for me, I used to do conversations on the fringe, and I used to have PhDs and, philosophers and quantum physicists and stuff like that on the show. And I could fucking hang with them all day long. I'll tell you, when I first started doing conversations on the fringe, I was really intimidated by my guests, especially when I had someone who was a doctor, PhD or something on, until I started realizing that I'm smarter than 90% of them. And then it was just like, I go in there with the upper hand, and it's just like, well, what about this? And what about this? And like a lot of them fail to critically think their own ideas and theories. And like, you can break it down. And like, I take notes during shows. And I take notes because there's like timestamps. I want to go back and I want to cut that part out. but I take notes also because like, oh, that was a great idea, or that was fucking stupid, and I got to smack Alpha after the show for that one, right? Like so you take notes. But I used to do that during my shows, and I would go in and I'd be like, this person doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. But it happens more so than not.
I draw pictures.
I draw pictures. I got a few pictures. I do draw pictures. That's why I got the marker. That's why I got the marker.
No, I actually do take notes for those that are curious. Shout out to Let the Arrest Begin, who gifted 5 subscriptions right there at the tail end again. So thank you for doing that. Anything you want to cue people off on that you had this week, or anything that you got coming up? I don't know if it already passed or if you're doing it. Your Q&A.
Q&A is tomorrow night. My Q&A is tomorrow night, Friday night. It is at 9 Central, 10 Eastern. So that will be on my channels. If you want to become a monthly subscriber over there for a cup of coffee a month, $5.99, you can go to redpills.tv, go to the premium tab, and you can find all of that information on how to do that. And then tomorrow night, so that's tomorrow night. I will be in Colorado next Saturday. And there is potential that the Colorado Badlands Meetup Group is going to host an event, and I will be the speaker at the event. I will keep people updated on if that happens. And then at the end of the month, my camping trip, that's in just outside of St. Louis over by Eureka, Missouri. And that's the 24th to the 26th. Only 2 days this year, but it'll be a great 2 days. So hopefully people can go out there. Redpills.tv for all of that information out there.
100%. Folks, I know a couple of people are asking, Alpha, are you doing day 4 of the Charlie Kirk trial? I had a lot of shows today, if you guys weren't aware of. So, but I do have all my notes for tomorrow. Tomorrow, they're wrapping up the Charlie Kirk one. It's not going to go the distance. They're anticipating it's going to be done by lunchtime. So I'm going to do day 4 and day 5 tomorrow. And then stand by, because I think myself, Josh, and Nino are going to be coming back to do a complete recap of the prelim. So we have that going. Also, this weekend on Saturday, I'm going to do you guys a solid that only want to watch the assessment I did on the trials from Charlie Kirk's prelim this week. I'm going to clip all the parts out that's just the trial from each one of the shows that I did this week, and I'm going to put them in one video that will then air Saturday evening for you guys. So this way you can see day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And one of the things that you were going to see is I wasn't somewhat accurate. I fucking nailed it, Josh.
Well, you should set, when you put all that together, let me know, and I'll post that on my channels as well, because I have not been paying attention, and I think that is good information for people out there. One other thing, I do have I've been talking to people, my new album from Guardians of Truth. It will be coming out this week. And so I do have an end song to play for everybody. Alpha got the spot on DEF CON the other night. So he actually, it was like an 18-minute song that Alpha played, but it was a really good song. It was pretty awesome.
7 minutes, 23 seconds.
All right. But we're going to play this one on the way out. So guys, much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. We'll see you next time. Here is The Silent War from the new album coming out here.
Hear the cannons thunder. No smoke will fill the sky. The front lines run through living rooms. One headline at a time. The loudest voice isn't always right. Brightest light can blind. Some battles shape the world outside. This one shapes the mind. They can bury every warning. They can rewrite every page. The future proves the past. Every generation takes the stage. Welcome to the silent Truth is harder now to find. Hold the line when voices roar. Hope is something worth fighting for. Faith is stronger than control. Freedom starts inside the soul. This is the silent war. If you don't see it, keep asking. If you do, don't lose your way. Fear has always been a weapon. Hope has always won the day. No army can command a conscience. No system owns your name. The strongest walls are built by people who refuse to play the game. They can bury every warning. They can rewrite every page. The future proves the past. Every generation takes the stage. Question louder, listen deeper. Think beyond the easy answers. Truth survives when people refuse to surrender their conscience. This is the silent war. No bullets, no uniforms. The battlefield is every heart, every family, every home. Stand together, carry hope. Light another fire. When enough people choose liberty, darkness runs out of places to hide. To those who cannot see it, keep searching. To those who already know, keep standing. History remembers the people who refused to let hope die. Because the future proves the past.